Thank you, Madeline, for that warm introduction, and thank you to IPAA for bringing us together each and every year for this budget session. I look forward to hearing from Mike. It is a main event for him, not me, but I will give the opening address and talk a little bit about the public service for the year ahead, as Madeline pointed out. I'd also start by acknowledging country. To the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, pay my respects to elders past and present and any Indigenous people who are here with us today. I'd also like to pay homage and respect to the secretaries, both former and current, who are in the room today, and one in particular being Martin Hoffman, who's here at the front, who's been a colleague for a number of years, who has left us in the New South Wales Public Service in his former role as Secretary of Department of Finance Services and Innovation. And you don't get the opportunity to acknowledge people publicly as much as you want to, and as a public servant and as a senior public servant you should do so. So Martin, for your time in the New South Wales Government over the last few years, as a friend and a colleague, I thank you very much for everything you've done. I wouldn't mind if people acknowledge Martin. For me, this quick discussion will be about the 23rd of March, what we did in early April and where we are now. So on the 23rd of March, for those that were watching, I was not. There was an election on. The coalition was returned for its third term. I think the first person that told me about it, because I was out with my daughter partying, believe it or not, on that night and didn't watch the election. So I think Michael Coates-Trotter had to send me a text to tell me who'd won the election. I said, thank you, Michael, for letting me know. I'll get up and put a suit on tomorrow and not board shorts. So that's sort of how I found out. The next sort of few days were fairly energetic in terms of getting ready for this term of government. And in the early days of April, we started with a fair bit of robustness in terms of blueprinting for this term of government. The new government was sworn in, the new ministry was sworn in on the 2nd of April, and very soon after that the Premier and the Deputy Premier outlined 5 areas of focus for this term of government. Those 5 areas of focus, I hope you all have rehearsed and know. My boss expects you all to know it, and I do as well, to be frank with you. We all should. The first is economic growth and the continued drive for job security and jobs growth, particularly over the next 10 years, and how jobs will emerge and we will retrain ourselves and the rest of the economy to take advantage of those jobs. The hallmark of now the third term of this government, which has been the same as the first term from 11 to 15 and from 15 to 19. No surprise there. The second, though, is to address intergenerational disadvantage and to tackle problems that have been in the too hard basket for too long. Quite a tilt towards a very large focus on social policy areas. They have been there, but they are now very much top of mind for the government. The third is putting people at the centre of government and placing the customer at the centre of everything we do, which again has been a hallmark for the government over now this 9th year, but it is going to scale much more across every area of activity that we have. Some of us have been on that journey for some time, but and it's in the DNA of a lot of us to be customer focused now as a 400,000 strong public service delivering for 8 million customers, but it will stream a lot more strongly across every area of domain that we work in. The fourth is providing lifelong education for everyone in this state, no matter where you live or what your circumstance. We are here to provide lifelong education for all of us, from the various young in early childhood through to lifelong learning for all of us as we continue on driving that economic growth. And the fifth is to provide well-connected communities and great local neighbourhoods, the local neighbourhoods that you and I live and work in, and to provide those and make those a very special place. That means looking at more public space, more green and open space, and making the development and growth be both manageable and be places where we're proud to live and work and provide for community. So that's the 5 areas of focus, and we've worked very hard in this first 90 days of this government. I think we're up to about the 90th day, and I've been ticking them off till we get to the 1st of July, which is the 100th day through coincidence from the 23rd of March. I basically acknowledge 100 days because governments normally do that, but for the public service it also gives us a nice end of the beginning. And I know it's a glib term, but it actually is, and it's good to acknowledge it. And I thank everyone for the effort that they've put in, and I'll go through a few things that we've done over that short period. There has been a mountain of work, and we've evolved quite fast just in this last 90 days, but we've evolved several times. And just as a reminder, this government came in with Premier O'Farrell in 2011 in March. Premier O'Farrell handed over to Premier Baird during that first term of government. Premier Baird won the 2015 election. We evolved again. And then Premier Berejiklian took over from Premier Baird in 2017. We evolved again. Here we are, the 5th time that I've been involved over now the 9th year of this government. None of that has been about standing still, status quo. We've continued to evolve. We've continued to renew. We've continued to renew both our institutions, our structures, and the people that run it. Indeed, I often say, take a photo of the Secretary's Board on 1st of July each year and see if you can spot the differences, because there are many. That's just the way it is. And evolution is a natural thing. In terms of how we've gone about things this time, I hope, and you shouldn't hope in government, but I do hope that we've gone about things to try and deliver on change management a little differently. We've gone from 10 clusters to 8, which is a streamlining of the public service. It has meant we've tried to set ourselves up for the 2020s, for the roaring 20s that are ahead of us. I'll coin that phrase, patented right there, the roaring 20s. Actually, my daughter owns it. She loves calling it the roaring 20s. She's looking forward to it. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to set up the decade ahead of us, and that's quite an exciting thing. How we've done that in terms of the 8 clusters is to try to, again, streamline and bring areas of activity together. Talking about intergenerational disadvantage and responding to that. It's why we have a stronger communities cluster with Michael Cootes-Trotter. It's why we've brought together law and order, justice, and family and community services areas together, so they can actually tackle and contest the problems and opportunities that are faced for those most vulnerable in our community. Same with planning, industry and environment, bringing together those areas of economic activity and enabling planning activity together. It's so they can contest the great challenges of our time around climate, around drought, around environment and around development, particularly in urban areas, but also across the state. That is why we've brought those areas together. And one I'm exceptionally proud of, and one that I'll talk about for people like Martin Hoffman, Glenn King, and for Mike Pratt, who have driven customer at the centre of everything we do, which is why we've gone from a customer service commissioner about 7 years ago, a person of one being Mike Pratt, to now a full cluster that drives customer service across the New South Wales economy. I think people have been involved, and that should be exceptionally proud. If ever there is a cluster that is all about opportunity and upside, it is that cluster. And for those that work in there, and I spoke to their leadership yesterday, I wish them well, and I've said to Glenn King many times, I'm very envious of his job. I think he has a wonderful, wonderful job. I won't go through all of the clusters. Needless to say that we've made a fair few changes. Those changes, I've been told, are bold. I always worry when people tell you they're bold. They are simply about setting us up for the next decade, as I've said, and simply about doing the right thing. When you're in my job, you either get on with it and you continue to evolve, or you probably shouldn't be in my job. The other thing in my job is when you make change of such exceptional scale, you don't just put out admin orders like DPC often do and say our job is done and wash your hands of it. My job is to sell that message over and over to the public service to say why we've done things and what we've done and how we're going to implement. And Mike Pratt, myself, Emma Hogan as the Public Service Commissioner, and Glenn King as the Customer Service Commissioner have been meeting well prior to the election to get ourselves as ready as possible for whatever would come on the 24th of March. So we were pretty match fit and ready to roll with a blueprint for the shape of the public service and getting on with it. It's meant we've been able to move fast, and it's meant that we've been able to facilitate and help each cluster and each secretary to try and get as prepared as possible. That is a lot of work. Admin orders are one thing, the legislation that goes through it, getting cabinet and cabinet committees set up, getting election commitments allocated and underway, and actually a lot of them delivered even before the 1st of July arrives, getting Premier's priorities established for this term of government, whilst also getting on with the monstrous task of business as usual. Every emergency department presentation, every train customer, every school that is open for every student, amongst many other areas. All of that business as usual activity that is our bread and butter that needs to be done well day in, day out without distraction. It's been an enormous effort, as I say, in this first 90 days. And that brings us to today. Today is one of those major milestones. We now have the first budget of the next decade, the 2019-20 budget. First and foremost, because they never get this, is well done to New South Wales Treasury for preparing that. Give them a round of applause. They have a tough gig. Everyone has an opinion on what they do. Particularly at this time of the year, it's like transport. There are 8 million transport secretaries in the state of New South Wales in any particular day, and good on it. That is the way it is. We are all experts on how to manage the budget. It is over an $80 billion budget now, so to Mike Pratt and his team, it is a tough gig to do it, particularly right at the moment. They have to make tough choices, and budgets are about choices. Rest assured that Mike and the team have placed all of the options and all of the choices before government. Government's made its decisions and they've handed down the budget just 2 days ago. So to that team, I really do thank them. Let the commentary speak for itself as well. We continue to have surpluses in this state, even with some more challenging times with stamp duty, with the global economics as they are at the moment, and I won't steal any of Mike's thunder on that. I'll let him speak about it in detail, but certainly an incredibly good outcome. I will, though, speak a little bit about Mike because, again, secretaries get an opportunity to speak about each other and talk about each other because no one normally does. We chat about things to ourselves, but you've got a leader in Mike who cares greatly for this state. He's very passionate about what he does. We're very like-minded in being very customer-focused. And when you have a Premier and Cabinet Secretary and a Treasury Secretary who are joined at the hip and don't have a gap between them, the public service can actually get along with things a little more readily than otherwise. It's not something to take for granted because over a long period of time in various jurisdictions I've seen, they have had a gap between them and they don't normally get along as well as they can sometimes. We have been lucky over a good period of time for successive leadership that it has been the case here, and it's no different with Mike and myself. I absolutely love working with him. He is a phenomenally good colleague, and I think you'd find that every secretary that stood up here would say the same thing about him. I don't do this to embarrass him in any way, but the leadership that he's portrayed over the last 90 days, and particularly for me, the wise counsel and the friendship for the 3 months leading into the election and now this 3 months after, has been enormous. And stewarding the New South Wales Public Service in and over an election through caretaker, out the other side, shape of government, machinery of government changes, and then to make this milestone for the 19-20 budget, I think speaks volumes for him, for his style and how he goes about his work. So I wouldn't mind if you acknowledge the Treasury Secretary for his work. For me, during that period as well, we're in the midst of the People Matter Employment Survey, and I won't go into that too much, but to say that we as a group of senior executives have a job to do, and I do this plea to you between now and the end of the month. Make sure that our participation in that survey is as high, if not higher, than any other year. If ever there is a year where we want people to tell us what's on their mind, it's this year. If ever you want a reflection of how we've gone about change management, that means all of us in terms of what we've done in terms of the blueprint for the public service, it is this year. The easy and cheap way out would be to say, let's press pause this year and not do it. That discussion is not really had anymore. We just get on with it. There is change each and every year in the public service, as I've pointed out. This year is no different. It's just larger in scale. But I do encourage you. I think from last count, I asked Em Hogan last night where we're up to. I think we're up to close on 130,000 people have participated in the survey. I did mine on day one, so I was very proud of that fact. And I hope that you've all participated. Won't do a show of hands. It might embarrass a few, but if you haven't, get on and do it. But that's 130,000 people who have decided to have their voice. Now, what they have to say about that could be a wonderful thing or it could be a surprise. But needless to say, we need to know what people have on their mind. They are our people. We are here to look after them. That means more and more frontline people are having their say than ever before, and what they say speaks volumes for what we do for the year ahead and respond to what's on their mind. So again, my plea to you is to get our result as high as we possibly can. Last year I think we made it to 170,000 people. We're on track to probably surpass that. That is a marvellous outcome if people are participating at that rate, because they want to have their say. What they have to say is then incumbent upon us for the next few months to get on and respond in kind. I'll finish by simply saying, to say that it's an honour to play this role that I play at this point in time in the history of my state, where I grew up, is quite exceptional. To be leading into the next decade, having seen 9 years and 9 budgets come and go now, is phenomenal. It is a surreal experience. I never thought I would be in the role I'm in now, certainly. So to actually have a participation and a role in the shape of our state is phenomenal. And for each of you as leaders in the room, you are also playing a role in that regard. These are the very reasons we joined the public service. These are the very reasons you are a New South Wales public servant, to make that difference for the community you live in, for your family, for your friends and everyone else that you know. That's why we come to work. So take that with you. Listen to what Mike has to say about the budget for 2019-20. Yes, we've had to make some hard decisions in the budget. Some of those have had some commentary over the last few days about the public service. It would be remiss of me not to comment on a few of those things. In terms of expense savings and the commentary on that, we have had significant expense savings placed upon us for 9 long years. That's a natural course for this government. We've responded to those expense savings each year. It's what good, responsible government has to do, and it's what good, responsible public service has to do to respond. In terms of the scale of the change, this is me personally, having been in transport for a lot of years, it is no real difference to what we've been doing for a long, long time. We just need to get along and do those things and get along with change as we've been requested to by the government. So I'm happy to have a chat with anyone about that at any particular time, but as I say, I don't see the commentary as too much different from what I saw in 2015, indeed in 2011. The key is that we are a resilient and confident public service as we face into the next decade. Yes, there'll be lots of challenges, but when you're in these jobs, maybe I'm a glass half full person, but I just see there's a lot of opportunity in the days ahead. I look forward to the next generation coming through and guiding the way for the state of New South Wales, and that's a wonderful thing to actually watch the next levels of leadership coming through. So that's a lot of you in this room, and I hope that resonates with you. To my secretary colleagues, well done for the last 90 to 100 days. It has been phenomenally challenging for them. If you ever wonder what it's like to be a secretary, the last 90 days, if you've been watching your boss wander around looking a little bit wide-eyed or wild-eyed, they have had a phenomenal task to do, and it is no small job. When you ask Michael Cooch-Trotter, Jim Betts and others to come and play the role at the scale they play, you'd expect them to ask you 100 questions. They don't. They simply say, I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve the state of New South Wales, and that's the type of leadership you have. That's the type of confidence and resilience that you have at the leadership level in this state, and I'm honoured to work with them. So look, I'll close in simply saying that the 1920 budget and IPAA running this every year, I applaud them for doing so. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing for us to be able to come together and hear what's in the budget, have it unpacked in quite a level of detail in public service terms, in our commentary, and IPAA brings us together each year to do that, and I think that's a brilliant thing. So to Mike and the team and Treasury, again, well done for the efforts, well done for getting basically a budget together and framed for 8 clusters, not 10, within 90 short days. Well done for getting an outcomes framework reshaped in that same period of time. Well done for taking an 80-20 approach to it, because we knew we would not get the perfect in that short amount of time, but it shows you the nimbleness with how they've worked together across the public service. Level 21 in 52 Martin Place over the last few weeks has been an absolute hive of activity, and each and every one of your CFOs, each and every one of your analysts, each and every one of your people in your finance areas have been up there working diligently away, undistracted by mortgage changes, undistracted by structural changes, undistracted by leadership changes, just with a single purpose of getting together to put a 1920 budget together. And for all of those people, I acknowledge and applaud you. It's a wonderful job. So with that, IPAA, thank you very much, Madeline, for the opportunity to speak to you today, and I really look forward to hearing from Mike, and thank you very much.